There's a feeling that thousands, maybe millions of us know intimately, but rarely speak about. It's the quiet hum of a fluorescent light above a cubicle. It's the weight of a mandatory all-hands meeting on your calendar, a meeting about metrics that feel completely disconnected from reality. It's the slow, creeping sensation that you are a square peg being relentlessly hammered into a round hole. You look around, and everyone else seems to be fine. They nod along, they fill out the spreadsheets, they navigate the politics with a casual ease that feels alien to you. And in those moments, a dangerous thought can take root. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm just not cut out for the real world. But what if I told you that feeling isn't a sign of your failure? What if that deep cellular rejection of the corporate world isn't a weakness, but the clearest possible signal that your mind is wired for something the system was never designed to contain? That your frustration isn't a flaw, but a feature, a core component of a deeply creative mind. The truth is, highly creative people don't just dislike corporate structures. In many ways, they are psychologically allergic to them. And it's not because they're lazy or undisciplined or difficult. It's because the very operating system of their mind is in direct conflict with the operating system of the corporation. Today, we're going to explore the 4 profound reasons behind this conflict. This isn't just a list of complaints. This is a validation of your experience. The first reason, and perhaps the most fundamental, is that creative minds are built to optimize, while corporations are built to standardize. This is the core conflict. From the outside, this might look like you being resistant to process, or someone who doesn't like to follow rules. You've probably heard a version of that feedback in a performance review. It sounds like a criticism, a polite way of saying you're not a team player. But let's look at what's actually happening under the surface. Your brain is a relentless pattern recognition and problem-solving machine. It is constantly scanning the environment, not for the rules, but for the most elegant and efficient path to a solution. When you are presented with a 3-page form to get a $20 reimbursement, your mind doesn't just see a task to be completed. It sees a broken system. It sees wasted energy, convoluted steps, and a complete disregard for the most valuable resource anyone has. The frustration you feel isn't about the 20 minutes it takes to fill out the form. It's a deep, almost physical pain at witnessing such profound inefficiency. You can't turn it off. You instantly see 5 different ways the process could be automated, simplified, or eliminated entirely. But the corporate structure isn't interested in a better way, it's invested in the way. Standardization creates predictability, and corporations crave predictability above all else, even when it comes at the cost of common sense. The phrase, "this is how we've always done it," is not just an annoying cliché to you. It's a logical fallacy that grates against the very core of your cognitive function. You aren't a rule breaker for the sake of rebellion. You're a system builder who is trapped inside a system that refuses to be improved. Imagine being a master watchmaker, someone who understands the intricate dance of gears and springs, and being forced to work in a factory where your only job is to hammer a square peg into a round hole, over and over for 8 hours a day. It wouldn't just be boring, it would be a form of psychological torture. That is what it feels like for a creative mind to be confronted with arbitrary bureaucracy. Your resistance is actually the sign of a highly functional, analytical mind trying to save the entire system from its own inertia. The second reason creative people wither in corporate environments is their non-negotiable need for autonomy. This is often misinterpreted as being unmanageable or not a team player. A manager might say you need too much freedom, or that you don't respond well to direct oversight. What they're failing to understand is that creativity is not a mechanical process. It cannot be summoned on demand between the hours of 9 and 5. It's not a widget that can be produced faster if a supervisor is watching over your shoulder. Creativity is an act of cultivation. It's a garden, not an assembly line. It requires space to think, the freedom to explore tangents, the permission to fail, and the quiet time for disparate ideas to cross-pollinate. Micromanagement is the poison to this entire process. A manager who constantly checks in, who needs hourly updates, who dictates the how instead of just defining the what, isn't just being annoying. They are actively destroying the conditions necessary for you to do your best work. In psychology, there's a crucial distinction between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is doing something for an external reward, a paycheck, a promotion, a bonus. Intrinsic motivation is doing something because the act itself is rewarding. Curiosity, passion, the joy of solving a complex puzzle. Corporate structures are built almost entirely on extrinsic motivators. But the fuel of a creative person is almost 100% intrinsic. The desire to create, to solve, to build something new comes from within. Micromanagement, with its constant oversight and focus on process, systematically strips away your sense of ownership and purpose. It turns an act of passion into a chore. It yanks you out of that precious flow state, that magical space where time disappears and you are completely immersed in your work. Every just checking in email, every quick sync-up call is a rock thrown into a perfectly still pond, sending ripples of disruption that can take hours to settle. Your need for autonomy isn't a desire to slack off. It is a desperate biological need for the oxygen your brain requires to function. You're not asking for a lack of accountability. You're asking for trust. You're asking to be given a problem to solve, not a list of instructions to follow. To the creative mind, being trusted with autonomy is the ultimate sign of respect, and its absence is the ultimate sign that you're in the wrong place. This leads directly to the third reason, a deep, visceral allergy to performative work. The modern corporate world is drowning in it. Performative work is all the activity that looks like work but creates no actual value. It's the 2-hour meeting that could have been an email. It's the color-coded progress report that no one will ever read. It's the mandatory team-building exercise that feels more like a hostage situation. For many people, this is just part of the job. It's the game you have to play. But for a creative person, it is soul-destroying. This is because your internal compass is calibrated not to activity, but to impact. You are wired to create tangible outcomes. Your sense of self-worth is often deeply tied to the value of what you produce. When your day is filled with tasks that have no clear purpose, it doesn't just feel like a waste of time, it feels like a waste of your life. From the outside, your quietness in a pointless meeting might be mistaken for disengagement. Your hesitation to work on a project you know is destined for the corporate scrap heap might be seen as a bad attitude. But what's really happening is a powerful internal quality control system at work. Your mind is screaming, "This is meaningless. There is a real problem over there that I could be solving, a real product I could be improving, a real piece of art I could be creating. And instead, I am sitting here pretending to care about synergy." This disconnect is what the writer Cal Newport refers to when he distinguishes between deep work and shallow work. Shallow work is the logistical stuff, the emails, the meetings, the administrative tasks that keep the corporate machine oiled. Deep work is the focused, uninterrupted concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit and creates new value. Creative breakthroughs, scientific discoveries, and great works of art are all products of deep work. Corporate environments, with their constant interruptions and emphasis on being visibly busy, are factories of shallow work, and they are starting you. Your frustration isn't a sign that you're not a hard worker. It's a sign that you are a deep worker, trapped in a shallow world, and your soul is desperate for something of substance to work on. You don't need another brainstorming session about the company mission statement. You need a problem to solve. Finally, the fourth reason is a fundamental incompatibility with the corporate political landscape. Creative people, at their core, tend to operate on a currency of merit. The best idea should win, regardless of who it came from. The most effective solution should be implemented, regardless of which department gets the credit. The person with the most skill and insight should be listened to, regardless of their title. This worldview is logical, efficient, and pure. It is also completely at odds with how most large organizations function. The corporate world often runs on a different currency entirely, a currency of perception, influence, and relationships. Success is often determined not by the quality of your work, but by your visibility to leadership. Promotions are given to those who manage upward effectively, not necessarily to those who are the most competent. This creates a state of profound cognitive dissonance for the creative person. It feels like living in a bizarro world where the laws of physics are inverted. You watch as projects are greenlit based on a senior vice president's whim rather than data. You see people who are masters of self-promotion climb the ladder while the brilliant, quiet engineer in the corner is consistently overlooked. This isn't just unfair, it's illogical. It violates your sense of how things ought to be. As a result, you are often seen as not political enough or too direct. You say what you think in a meeting, not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you believe the truth is the most important variable. You focus on making the work itself excellent, assuming that its quality will speak for itself, only to find that the work was less important than the presentation you gave about the work. The energy that others spend on networking, on carefully wording emails, on managing perceptions, that is energy you are desperately trying to conserve for the actual act of creation. It feels like a tax on your very soul. It's not that you're socially inept, it's that you have an extremely low tolerance for inauthenticity. The forced pleasantries, the strategic compliments, the entire performance of corporate life feels like a heavy costume you're being forced to wear. And eventually, the weight of it simply becomes too much to bear. Your disdain for office politics isn't a character flaw. It is a sign that you are oriented toward truth in a system that is often oriented toward fiction. So if you have ever felt like you were failing at your job, if you've ever felt restless and out of place in a structured environment, it's time to reframe that entire narrative. That feeling was not a signal of your inadequacy. It was the friction between a dynamic, expansive mind and a static, rigid system. Your hatred of bureaucracy isn't a refusal to follow rules. It's the cry of a systems thinker who sees a better way. Your need for autonomy isn't a sign that you're unmanageable. It's a non-negotiable requirement for your mind to do its most profound work. Your exhaustion with meaningless tasks isn't laziness. It's an allergy to the shallow in a desperate search for the deep. And your discomfort with office politics isn't a social failing. It's a commitment to authenticity in a world that too often rewards performance. You are not broken. You are a builder, a problem solver, an innovator, and an artist, trapped in a role that asks you to be a custodian. The friction you feel is a good thing. It's a compass. It's telling you that your unique gifts are needed elsewhere, in an environment that values elegance over process, trust over control, impact over activity, and truth over perception. Your flaws are, in fact, the very blueprint of your greatest strengths. If this felt like listening to a page from your own private journal, share in the comments which of these 4 reasons resonates with you the most. And maybe share this with another creative soul who is sitting in a cubicle right now wondering what's wrong with them. They need to hear that there is nothing wrong with them. They just might be a genius in a system that was never built to recognize them.